the prospect of these predicted rolling blackouts, dark winters, etc., where we're being threatened by WEF politicians, the diesel and the gasoline and the electricity. And in that case, you don't have the ability to store hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds of beef at a time. So having the ability to slaughter and process a goat at home, where you could easily handle that job, you could share any extra meat with neighbors so that none of it goes bad and all of it goes to supplying nutrition and sustenance to fellow human beings, for the profit reasons and for those practical reasons of survival. I think that all cattlemen should be getting out of the cattle business and into smaller ruminants.
Wow. So this is all purposely done by non-elected officials. Like this is beyond just one country. This is basically the World Economic Forum, right?
Yeah. If you look in the Netherlands right now, they're kind of spearheading the destruction of agriculture.
Mm-hmm. I saw the farmer protests.
Yeah, they're euthanizing thousands and thousands of head of cattle. They're just, they're wiping out the cattle industry on a global scale. And I think that eventually that will bleed into poultry, and they'll blame
avian flu and stuff like that.
Yeah, they'll blame avian flu on that. Also the pigs, and then the sheep and the goats. I look at goats as being really low on the totem pole of priority. And we've had a lot of, over the last 20 years or so, we've had a huge influx of legal migration from India and other countries where a goat is a staple. So there's a growing market for goat meat, and has been a growing market for goat meat in the United States for a very long time. So at this point, the profits that I can make by selling a goat on the hoof, meaning a living, breathing animal, I can make more profit selling that than I can selling packaged beef to the public, by far. And it doesn't come along with all of the liability that comes along with selling raw meat. There's a lot of liability with selling raw meat as well.
Is that these people adopting a strict carnivore diet initially, perhaps as an elimination diet, removing all plant sources, can have dramatic improvements in some of their autoimmune disease. You go to a rheumatologist, the majority of the time they will not find the root cause of your autoimmune disease, but try and use different pharmaceuticals, as well as pretty much pharmaceuticals, to try and treat the illness, never looking for the root cause. It also has health benefits, definitely similar to a ketogenic diet, going back to our ancestors that primarily could survive strictly on bison. I'm sure they would be eating all sorts of the organs as well. And to a large extent, we have the Kenya population, the Maasai in Kenya, not the whole Kenya population, but the Maasai specifically, that are still a tribe that lives in that area, that uses pretty much grazing, the animals, following them, taking their milk, and also eating the animals, and they have exceptional the World Economic Forum is using based on the media is the media has to really propagandize everything, or else the World Economic Forum wouldn't have so much influence. I think then if there's no cattle, or the cattle industry is severely being crushed, because I guess they are pushing for a global plant-based diet. Do you agree? Like eventually, right?
Yes, I think that their goal is to. I think their goal actually, and this is not really conspiracy theory because they've published all of this information, but essentially what they're looking to do is implement a human caste system that will be implemented, the combination of genetic altering the genetic makeup of human beings, and also through nutritional partitioning, which is it's like what how whenever a hive of honeybees decides to make a new queen, they do that by offering royal jelly,
Mm-hmm.
which has specific nutrients in it that will create the version of a honeybee that can reproduce. And so that's what I see that they're doing. Their plans with human beings is to have basically two castes, two primary castes of humans. One are the rulers who eat the best Wagyu beef. They have all of the most nutritious foods available to them. They don't go through any type of genetic manipulations. They're basically pure blood human beings who have the ability to reproduce and will live, a lifespan of say 100 or more years. And then the other caste will be uh, basically vegan, genetically manipulated vegans who are for the most part, sterilized, unable to reproduce either through chemical introduction of chemical means of sterilization, or the nutritional deficiencies that come along with the vegan diet that will trigger sterility. And this lower caste system will be weak, small, sickly, obedient, and their lifespan will probably be maxed out at around 30 years. So you can imagine how over just a generation or two, they can create a scenario where the ruling class would be viewed by the lower caste basically as gods, because the ruling class will be living 3 or 4 lifetimes compared to the lower caste vegans. And they a lot of what they're doing right now you can find exact parallels in history, specifically during Stalin's reign. He intentionally starved to death millions and millions and millions of primarily Ukrainians. And there's a lot of people today that will deny that that was an intentional famine, but it actually was intentional. And it was carried out by basically the Marxist um, cabal that was holding Stalin up in power. And one of the things that they did there was they started shutting down farmers. And basically the same exact thing that you're seeing happening today. It doesn't make any sense for them to shut down farmers. I
Well, it
can,
makes sense to them.
yeah, it makes sense to them when you look at their plan. But you know, I think on your channel I have mentioned Gabe Brown, who I think is probably the farmer who's spearheaded most successfully a way to marry animal agriculture and plant agriculture, and he avoids doing any monocropping. He only plants polycrops. He does no tillage. He always has the soil covered, and he uses ruminants to fertilize the soil in preparation for his cash crops. So he's mimicking the natural carbon and nitrogen and phosphorus and potassium cycles so that no external sources of these nutrients are required. And because that type of management also leads to carbon rich soils